Good morning, boys and girls. Welcome back this morning. This last week, we got to celebrate Peter's birthday. Peter had a birthday, so I don't know if you can find a creative way to tell Peter happy birthday, you might want to do that, even though it's after the fact. Peter likes presents, just so you know. And we won't go any further as to what kind of presents, will we, Peter? Or should I? No? All right. We'll let you guess what Peter likes. All right, so we are talking about a story which, thankfully, I should not get hung up on the name like I was struggling last week, because the main character besides Jesus in our story is Peter. Now, not Peter Panda, but Peter, the disciple of Jesus. So we are going to talk, and as I was studying this story, boys and girls, it's always good to figure out kind of where it comes, or its context, okay, where it comes. This is right after Jesus fed the 5,000 people. Can you imagine how long that day was, okay? Can you imagine after you have fed 5,000 people and you've taught all day, okay? Being a teacher and even handing out snacks at times can be exhausting. I can't imagine feeding that many people. Well, it had been a really long day, and Jesus tells his disciples, he says, why don't you get in a boat, go out to sea. Remember, a lot of these men were fishermen by trade, and so they get into the boat and they go out to sea. Well, Jesus, he goes up into a mountain and he spends some time praying and talking. Remember, prayer is just talking to God, and Jesus is God's son, so he's spending some time talking to his Father. And he's praying and he's praying, and the middle of the night, though, it starts to get a little scary. Something starts to happen that might scare some of you boys and girls. Do storms scare you, Peter? Yeah, it started to storm, and it was lightning and thundering, and the waves are coming and they're crashing at the boat, and the disciples start to get scared and nervous. And yeah, Peter, they were scared, and the waves are just beating against the boat, and they're talking to one another and like, what can we do? Where's Jesus left us alone out here? Basically, he's probably running through their minds, but they're like, what are we going to do? And water's coming in, and they're having to bail the water out, and the storm is just raging. Well, Jesus, he's back on shore. He's been praying. He's talking to God, and he looks out, and he can see that his friends are in trouble. Well, boys and girls, when our friends are in trouble, do we just turn around and say, forget about it? No, that's not what a true friend does. When we see people in trouble, we should want to help. Well, Jesus, now he's God and he can do many amazing things. We're about to talk about one of those amazing things that you boys and girls have never been able to do, except I thought of 2 exceptions if you're a smart aleck. Okay? The thing that Jesus was about to do was Jesus was going to walk on water. Now you say, I knew it. I knew it was going to be too much. All right. Okay. You see, I thought of one example, and that is the penguin exhibit at the zoo. If you've gone to the penguin exhibit at the zoo, there was glass on the floor, and you walked on water. But you didn't really, because you walked on glass. The other illustration I thought of was if you've walked on ice, a frozen form of H2O. Okay, so but those things aside, boys and girls, if you went to Lake St. Clair, you went to the beach, you went out in your pool, and you tried to walk on water, it's not going to work. You're not going to be able to do it. Well, Jesus starts walking on water. Yes, Peter? Oh, boy. See, boys and girls, I was trying to make it look like nighttime, and unfortunately, our water here had daytime. So ready? We're going to use our imaginations for a few minutes. I'm going to take the water away, but you can still pretend there's water. We'll leave the waves. And we'll put the boat back in. Sorry about that. I tried to make it work, and it just wasn't working. So there's our water. Now Jesus looks like he's in the sky. Better bring him back down in the water. So Jesus is walking on water, now that you're all distracted by the flannel graph. Jesus is walking on water. Again, boys and girls, that's something you and I can't do. Okay, that's something in our human finite bodies we are unable to do. Well, the disciples, we said they're scared and in the boat. If you were in a boat at night in a storm, Peter, and someone were walking on water, would you be comforted or be scared? Scared. Yeah, I would be too. And you read the story and the disciples are getting scared. They're like, that's a spirit, and they're getting nervous. They're like, nothing can walk on water. This is very scary. This isn't supposed to happen. This is unnatural. And now they're even more scared. Well, let's see what the Bible has to say. We are in Matthew chapter 14. So it says in verse 26, and when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, it is a spirit. And they cried out for fear. They are so scared. Verse 27, but straightway Jesus spake unto them, saying, be of good cheer, it is I, be not afraid. Jesus wants to calm them down. He's like, wait a minute, I'm coming to help you, okay? Don't kick against the person who's coming to help. Jesus was coming to help them, and he tells them, be of good cheer. It's okay. You don't have to be afraid. Well, Peter, in verse 28, it says, and Peter answered him and said, Lord, if it be thou, if. At that moment, does he really believe it's Jesus? If it be thou, bid me come onto thee on the water. He says, if you're really Jesus, then ask me to come. And Jesus, in the Bible here, in one word in red, Jesus says, come. So Peter does. He steps out of the boat and he starts walking to Jesus. Peter did walk on water. Well, Peter's walking on water. He's looking at Jesus, and all of a sudden, the lightning flashes and he hears the thunderclap. And he looks over here and he sees a wave. And he looks over here and he sees a wave. And he's starting to get overwhelmed. So many waves, so many waves. And Peter starts sinking. Wait a minute. Did Jesus change? Did something about Jesus? No, Jesus didn't change. What changed with Peter? He started to look around. He looked at the storm. He looked at the lightning. He looked at the waves, and he took his eyes off of Jesus. It's at that point he started to sink. Boys and girls, none of us are walking on water at the moment, but we're walking through life. And as we walk through life, when we take our eyes off of Jesus, things start to get a lot scarier. We see the negative, we see the bad, we see the things that aren't pretty. But when we're focused on Jesus, boys and girls, we can accomplish what he wants us to accomplish. We can do all things through him who strengthens us, boys and girls. Our strength comes from him, but our focus has to be on him, and then he gives us what we need to accomplish. There are a few things we can learn from this story, boys and girls. One, for sure, is to keep our focus on Jesus Christ. Our focus has to be, you say, well, how do I focus on him? I don't have him right there to look at. I'm not Peter. I'm not looking at him. You have his word. You can learn from his word. You can pray. You can talk to God. You can come to church. You can keep your focus on him and not the negative things around you. You know what, boys and girls, not only did Jesus, by the way, we kind of left Peter drowning there. We didn't take him out of the drowning water. Jesus didn't leave him there. When Peter took his eyes off of him, Jesus didn't say, too bad, you're stuck. Like, you lost your chance, forget it. No, Jesus isn't like that. Jesus reached out his hand, he rescues Peter, and at the same time, he calms the storm. He calmed the storm for them, and he protected them, and then he got in the boat with them. Boys and girls, Jesus wants to help you. He wants to protect you. He wants to lead and guide you. But how are you treating your friends? When there's trouble, are you being a help to them, or do you leave them to handle the trouble on their own? Don't take your eyes off of Jesus, and make sure you help those around you. Have a great afternoon.